Hello and welcome to the latest 20EA webinar. I'm Katie Billany, and today we've got some real industry experts here to talk to us about marketing and what estate agents should be doing to help themselves in what is currently a more challenging market. So to start things off, we've got Simon Leadbetter, founder of Unchained Marketing, but also previously CEO of Fine & Country, CMO of Keller Williams, group head of marketing at Knight Frank, and marketing director of Countrywide. So quite a span of experience there.
Been around a bit.
Simon.
Yes, absolutely.
We've also got Simon Gates, so we could get a little bit confused here with which Simon is which, but Simon, you're founder of Opening the Gates, but prior to that you spent several years at Home Search, head of training and development for agents, and before that you were an agent yourself for almost 10 years.
I was indeed. I actually dreamt of being an estate agent when I was a kid. I was one of those people who doesn't fall into it by accident. I wanted to do it, so yeah.
And we've also got Adam Day, UK lead at EXP. I mean, Adam, I don't know whether you dreamt of being an estate agent when you were...
Definitely not, no.
So as I said, today the purpose is for us to talk through kind of the landscape of marketing for estate agents in the current climate, and hopefully to give agents some suggestions as to what works well, what they should be doing, and potentially what changes they can make to their current strategies. So just to start off, Simon G, we'll go for. What do you think, in your experience, has changed since the days when estate agents, the majority of them claimed that all they needed to do was get word of mouth referrals? Why is that not something that is so successful these days?
Well, I think there's like double the amount of estate agents there were 15 years ago. So increased competition is going to impact that. So I think, gone are the days of solely relying on word of mouth. You're still going to get word of mouth from recommendations. I think estate agents could be better at asking for recommendations and referrals as well. A lot of agents I speak to say, most of my business comes from referrals. I go, how often do you ask for a referral? And they say, I don't. I'm like, so if you do such a remarkable service that you're getting referrals, imagine what it'd be like if you actually asked for it as well. So I think, so there's more competition. I think because of how transactional we are as an industry, that means that there's sort of more competition, I would say, because let's say, for example, I don't know what the averages are, but an estate agent works for ABC Estates and might not be there in a few years' time when that seller sells. And then you've got the rise of the self-employed model. So Adam can talk a lot about that, but they're following the person, not the brand as well. So I think on the recommendation referral piece, it's a lot harder because you've got estate agents moving brands and going down the self-employed model. And there's just so much more estate agents to choose from, but just word of mouth and referrals not enough these days, in my opinion.
And Adam, obviously your agents have got a well-known brand behind them in EXP, but you were saying earlier that all of the marketing is down to them, and so what the success of their performance is down to hyper-local marketing. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I mean, it hasn't changed a lot from my day, touting properties that are for sale with other agents. I'm a big fan of that. I don't think there's anything wrong with going and offering help to people who are struggling. That's our job, is to help people to move house. And if they're unable to move house with their current agent, you should be educating them that you exist. And obviously the days of social media have arrived, a few years ago now, and that wasn't a thing back in 97 when I started, or 2006 when I first started my business. But social media has been huge, massive for agents, friends and family. And actually, I think the referrals thing does happen, especially if you do take on a property that's been on the market with another agent, and you sell it and the other agent couldn't, you have a raving fan for life. I agree with Simon, you have to ask for the referrals. But I think with the personal agency model that we run, I think obviously people buy from people. It's a people business. We hear this mantra and have done since the start of my career in 97. But the irony is no brand has ever put their people first. They've always put their brand first, and we've put our people first. And so therefore, the customers are buying into our people. They're buying into that personal brand, and so they are referring people more naturally. I think due to that. But a lot of traditional stuff, the Facebook stuff and referrals is what we're kind of seeing. But touting is a good way to get people up and running for sure.
And do you think that in addition to asking for referrals, agents are traditionally not that good at asking for reviews as well?
Yes. Sorry for jumping in there, guys. But yeah, a lot of estate agents I speak to, you go and look at reviews and most of them do not have many. And, people do Google. If they're going to have 3 agents out to appraise their home, a lot of them are going to Google them and see what they're about. If you go to Google and there's no reviews there, like that's alarm bells for me. You might have reviews that haven't been responded to. It could be negative reviews. I think a lot of agents are scared about asking for a review and getting a negative response. You just got to ask for reviews. They're so
just
powerful.
on reviews, for Christ's sake, don't pay for them. Don't use Trustpilot.
Yeah.
Don't use any of these. They are absolute leeches on the industry. I'm telling you now, you should not be go to Google, get your review on Google, get your reviews on Facebook. Do not use these paid for platforms because they are leeches and they're like, it's like bloody blackmail, isn't it? Some of these companies, I think, in my opinion. Don't know what the other guys think.
I think the marketing director of Trustpilot might disagree with that, but
I wasn't saying Trustpilot blackmailing anyone. I was just saying don't get them from Trustpilot.
but I think, I agree with everything Simon and Adam have said. But I think word of mouth is now on steroids. I think with the advent, as Adam says, of social media, everything we do now can be easily amplified to hundreds of thousands of people very, very quickly, just through a few degrees of separation. I think asking for recommendations is part of the job. I'm surprised about how many businesses don't do something like a net promoter score. How likely would you be to recommend us? And negative feedback is as important as positive feedback. Of course, you share the positive stuff, but you fix the stuff that's getting you negative recommendations. What you tend to find is the same thing you get recommended for is the same thing as you don't get recommended for. It's just gone slightly wrong. But there's nothing like turning someone who wouldn't recommend you into a recommender by just getting that feedback. Something went wrong. Wasn't necessarily the agent's fault, but just finding out that they're not happy means they're less likely to tell loads of other people that it's gone wrong. I think the rule of thumb is if you have a good experience, you'll like to tell one person. If you have a bad experience, you'll like to tell 11 people. So those negative recommendations are just the worst thing. So unless you're addressing them and collecting them, you're missing a trick. But I agree, everyone should be asking for referrals and recommendations, especially when they know they've given a good service.
And given the number of platforms that we now have to kind of research an estate agent on, how important, Simon, do you think an estate agent's website is these days?
It's marketing 101, the most important thing that you will have. It's essentially your digital shop window. We talk in marketing about this model called PESO, horrible acronym, but it means paid, earned, shared, owned. So paid media, the stuff you pay for advertising, earned, things like PR and influencers, shared, good old social media, but owned are the things that you've already invested in. If you have a branch, you have a shop front window. Use it well. Don't just put pictures of properties up there, use the window well. If you don't have that, your website is absolutely fundamental. It's finding it interesting that the average score when you grade websites in the UK is about 67 out of 100. But I've seen some estate agents where they're 30, 40. The best tip I can give to someone about their website is compress your images. It's a really simple trick, but one of the things that massively affects the performance of websites is everyone uploads massive images, which damages their performance. But your website's your digital shop window. You should be writing content. You should be sharing content. You should have video. You should have audio. You should be sharing other people's content. You should be sharing local news, what's going on. Your website should be a destination for people to go to understand everything about property in that area, not just selling houses.
And talking about content, I think, a lot of agents say we're the experts in your area. We are the leading agent. Adam, what do you think that agents should be doing to actually substantiate that? Because everybody says it, we're experts in the local area. How do your local agents actually, prove that is the case? Content
marketing is stuff that I've probably done without realising it with the touting letters. 20 years ago, I was sending out tip number 1, why your house hasn't sold, tip number 2, and 6 tips. And if they took those advice and used it with their current agent, that's fine. I just accept that that's the case. And this is where I think agents need to stop worrying about giving advice and help and information to the public that, oh, well, if I give them that information, they might go and use another agent. Well, so what? The more you give, the more you receive. I think there's some classic stuff like, I think Mr. Watkin has talked about filming with a property in the background that's not necessarily for sale with you. We've had a couple of agents who have done that. Filming your stats. We had a guy in Tavistock who did the best pasty in Devon, even though because it's on the border of Cornwall, so he did the best Devon pasty rather than the best Cornish pasty.
Fighting talk.
Yeah. And so he went around all the different cafes and restaurants and reviewed each one and just posted that online. He was all polite about everyone, but he rated one better than the others and got massive exposure for that kind of thing. And we recommend and advise people to go and interview local businesses, and not only does that give you content, but it also then creates more relationships with other local businesses who can then help you with growing your business as well. So anything you can think of that's personal, that's statistical, that's helpful, just post it, do it.
I couldn't agree with that more. I mean, I think we talk about at Unchained in terms of it's expertise of the agent's really the most important thing, followed by exhibition of the property and experience of the customer, our 3 E's kind of model. What's interesting is most people aren't experts. And that's the reality of life. Not everyone can be an expert. But we say to people, most of the data that's produced in the industry is very generic national or regional stuff. Your skill to demonstrate your expertise is to take those stats, but make them hyper-local. So whatever the national picture is, you can go, I saw this, I thought of the local area, and what this means for where I live, Boxmoor, what this means for Boxmoor is, and share content. If you're always selling or producing pie charts of your market share, you're not actually benefiting the people. If you benefit people with information, absolutely they'll come to you. If you just share information, it's useful and it's relevant, they'll come to you and they'll think of you first when they're thinking of selling their home.
Still a place for that pie chart stuff though, isn't there? I mean, I would work on the 80-20 rule personally. 80% content, 20% sales pitch. That's kind of how I would work if it was me. I don't think there's anything wrong with pie charts. I know there's some industry talk about that. What do you think, Simon?
I put something on LinkedIn the other day of a ghostwritten article by Chris Watkin. He's getting too much airtime in this interview. By Chris, where I was the Newport Pagnell property blog guy, and people would stop me in the street, they'd stop me in the shop and go, loved your blog this month. And it worked very well. But on the pie chart side of things, and you said about that 80-20 rule, when I was in the living room, I've earned the permission to be in the living room through content marketing, reviews, direct mail, etc., like you said. But once I'm in there and you understand their needs, wants, motivations, and then it's like, you can see on this pie chart, I sell the most properties. That is why you should put your trust in me. But not only that, I used to also say, I've researched the data and I will get you the best percentage of asking price. So I'm most likely to sell it, most likely to get you the best price. That's why I think that you should trust me to sell your house over someone else. But you've got to do that content marketing, like you both said, haven't you, to then go in for that. Yeah. This is why you use me.
I'm not, again, I love a pie chart, massive fan of a pie chart. It's just one of the things I find with some of the pie charts is you've literally sold one more house than your next competitor. As a non-estate agent looking at that, you're kind of like, that's a so what factor. Yeah. If you're literally leagues ahead of your next peer, and absolutely to your point, you are so obviously selling more properties in that area than the next competitor. But sometimes you see pie charts and they've slipped from number 2 to number 1, grown from number 2 to number 1, but they're one property ahead. Most people are intelligent. Most people think that's not that impressive. If you've got an impressive story to tell, I'd be more impressed by the how do you perform, asking price, sale times, all those things. Those kind of stats are used to me. But if you are number 1, the market leader, absolutely get your pie chart there. But you've got to be head and shoulders above the next.
Yeah. And I think you're right, Simon. It's about tapping into what is important to potential vendors and landlords, and not what's good for necessarily the estate agent's ego. Yes, market share shows experience, and if you've got it, you should definitely definitely shout about it. But actually, it's more about how quickly are you going to sell on that property? How much are you actually going to get me for it?
The golden rule of marketing is never underestimate how little a customer cares about you. If you start from a position they actually do not give a damn about you, your brand, your story, anything. So the art is to make content that is interesting to them, and then everything follows. Bragging, I've seen posts on LinkedIn and Facebook and people are essentially bragging, and that'll alienate the majority. Telling a story of how you've helped someone is different to bragging. So all these things have a role, but if you start with the customer in mind, rather than your own business, you'll start from the right position.
And I think, we all know that although in a challenging market, one of the first things that is likely to get cut is a marketing budget. That really shouldn't be the case. The adage is that, the more challenging the market, the more you should be spending on your marketing. But unfortunately, there'll be a lot of agents watching this who aren't in a position to do that because they just haven't got that money in their coffers. They're still waiting for exchanges to happen. So, Simon, let's start off with you. What do you think the priorities should be for agents that are operating on a smaller budget?
Well, let's start with absolutely agreeing with what you just said. Is the worst thing you can do in a downturn is cut your marketing budget. All the data. I mean, literally, there can't be any more evidence than anywhere we could find, because it's just epically huge. You should invest through a downturn. When it gets hard, that's to invest. The advantage of that is because everyone else is cutting, your share of voice grows. You're suddenly the one visible. But it doesn't mean you should do what you were doing before a downturn. You should reconfigure your spending in terms of what's going on in the market. So I'd strongly recommend, check what you own. Are you using your website in the best way? You already paid for it. You may have a branch. Make sure that's optimized in the right way. You may be sending communications. Make sure they're the right way. Email is the most powerful form of marketing after word of mouth. So you should absolutely be using email, which is essentially free. But I'd say focus on what you own. Obviously, social media is basically free. I would absolutely make sure I've got a relationship with the local media in terms of PR. PR delivers the highest ROI in terms of actually getting a response. And you should absolutely stay there. But what you shouldn't do is the kind of the real sales activation led stuff you were doing before a downturn. It should all be about brand awareness, sharing interesting information. So as we come out of a dip, it's only a tightening, it's not really a dip. Once you come out of that dip, you'll accelerate faster than your peers. But I'd say make sure everything you own that's free, make sure that's optimized, because otherwise you're just wasting time and money. You should absolutely be building your email database because those people have opted in to hear from you. You should be doing social media and you should be doing PR. You can save a lot of investment by not doing as much of the paid stuff. But again, if you do, you'll just grow faster and it won't be as bad for you. You're basically setting yourself up to fail if you cut.
Simon, do you think that agents, touching on what Simon said about investing in email, do you think that a lot of agents don't mind their own databases sufficiently?
Yes. I think was it like 85% of buyers don't sell through the agent they bought through. And that's stat doesn't surprise me at all because it's so transactional. It's once they've bought the home, thank you very much, move on to the next one. Thankfully, in my last year in agency, 25% of my sales were returning customers, and I did have a stay in touch policy. So, 1 year on, 2 years, 3 years, so on. So that worked very well there. And just on the point that Simon was saying in terms of agents reducing their marketing budget in a lower market, it's what we're going to be 20% transactions down this year, roughly, on last year. I don't know if it was the webinar you did with Rightmove or another one, but they did a poll of are you keeping your marketing budget the same or decreasing it? And 45% said we're going to keep our marketing budget the same or decrease it. Well, if there's 20% less transactions, you need to be upping your marketing a lot. So 45% of those are going to be going backwards on that.
I mean, to emphasize that, we do something every year called Voice of the Agent, and we survey. We did it for the first time this year. We're going to do it every single year because it becomes really interesting when you've got trend data of what's going on. One of the questions we ask is, did you grow last year and are you growing this year? Which gives us a segment of people who've seen growth in the last 12 months and get growth in this 12 months. And we look at what they invest in marketing. Simple rule, if you want to grow, invest more in marketing. I wish it was more complicated than that. It is more subtle in terms of what's beneath the data. But if you just look at the percentages, everyone who's standing still or going backwards has a lower marketing spend than those people who are growing and going forwards. And it's as polarizing as that. If I had data that said the opposite, I'd share it. It just doesn't say that. It says, if you want to grow, spend more in marketing. And great for people like us, but it's kind of the data backs it up.
Yeah.
Just to give this can be a really weird analogy, but go with it. So I like my golf a lot, and you come into the autumn, winter months, there's going to be a lot of cold weather, there's going to be a lot of wind, and the ball's not going to travel as far. So what you do is you take an extra club or two. That's what we're in as a market at the moment. It's not what it was a year ago, but if I hit the same club I would in the summer, it's not going to hit the green. So you got to just go that bit further. Did you like that?
I didn't know
I'm
that.
not a golfer, but
I didn't
I
know
get
that.
it. I get it.
What?
But the balls don't go further as far in the winter.
In the winter, the temperature
worth an hour,
drops,
this.
so the ball's not going to go as fast. So it's the same with marketing. If you've got less transactions, you need to be investing more in your marketing, not just paid stuff, the free stuff. And you've mentioned it, the content marketing, the social media stuff,
100%.
interviewing business owners, etc. And Adam said earlier as well about targeting properties that are currently for sale. Goes back to a referral thing. You might give really helpful advice to someone and they don't sell through you, but they then tell John down the pub, well, Adam didn't sell my house, but he was amazing. His advice led me to change my marketing with my agent. So you've now got a raving fan there. And just on market stuff, you've said it 20A when we've had conversations before, how you can see this year there are more property changing agents than there were last year, which makes sense because the market's not as buoyant as it was. So again, back to Adam's point of that kind of low-hanging fruit and the free stuff, go and target the ones that are struggling to sell, they're being under-marketed, they're overpriced, and go and help them.
Gavin Swan, who's a trainer of mine, I know at Countrywide and Keller and Finally Country, we followed each other, used to call most estate agency marketing is put it on a portal and pray. And that's what a lot of people do. The best agents, the expert agents, will have told their client what's going to happen over the next 8 to 12 weeks and what they should expect. I got some data ages ago, and it showed that actually all brands, regardless of value, be they £25,000 fee or £900 fee, every customer goes through the same journey. When they choose their agent, they're happy. Within 6 weeks, they're miserable if they haven't sold. And knowing that, as an agent, why aren't you preparing for that? And you've actually said, at 6 weeks, we change our strategy, we do this. Obviously, you want the house to sell quickly. So the average day is 62 days now?
62 days.
62 days. I mean, that's a long time. Knowing that, you should prepare your customers is, we might talk about a price adjustment here. That feature wall that you love is literally annoying everybody and possibly not the new statue in all the gardens. Let's get rid of all those things and get the house staged, as good old Elaine Penhall would say, and then photograph it and get it ready. So show them the journey you're going to take them through. And again, to what Simon says, we are so transactional. We are so transactional, and we should consider a relationship that just because you've sold that person's house and that person's bought it, they know people. They know people in your area. And if they've had a fantastic experience and you maintain a relationship, when it comes to the next person looking to buy or sell a house, they may well recommend you.
So we've talked about touting and switching agents, and as Simon said, there are a higher number of vendors switching agents at the moment, but in the most recent analysis that we've done up to the end of August, there's still 84% of instructions this year have come from properties that weren't already on the market. And not only that, an agent is more likely to sell a property that didn't switch to them. So on average, an agent is 52% likely to sell a property that came to them off market. That reduces to 40% when it's a switched property. There are some agents, don't get me wrong, that perform really well when it comes to selling their switch stock. But generally, as an average, it is arguably more valuable for an agent to attract an off-market instruction. I'll put it out to all three of you, and you can decide which of you wants to jump in. But given that information, what do you think that agents should be doing to prioritise off-market targeting?
In our model, we've got obviously self-employed agents. I always say that your first fresh instruction is going to come from friends and family, which is probably going to come from social media. So social media, you do a big announcement, friends and family, or a referral from a friend or family member is going to be how you get your first instruction probably. And then your low-hanging fruit, your second hand, is going to come from your touting. For me, the touting is all, and I accept your statistics, absolutely, but I think I'm in the business of selling confidence to agents to go and take the leap of faith and go and join a self-employed model. And having instructions creates conversations from viewers and vendors and gives agents confidence in that they can actually do this. The number one fear for an agent joining a self-employed model is, will anyone actually trust me with their property? Will I actually get any instructions? And as soon as they do get a couple, that confidence level rises, and then people stay on for 6, 8, 9 months rather than bailing out at month 3 or 4, which a lot of other self-employed models probably have that because they don't push things like touting and social media. So that's kind of, I think the social media is massive. It's huge for us, and from what I've seen, that friends and family, but then getting out there on video, overcoming that fear of video and doing the stuff we've sort of talked about and touched on already. That's a real big. It's a big fear. I mean, my first ever video was 39 takes before I pressed post.
Let's have the outtakes. We want the outtakes on social media, definitely.
Well, we know Ben Moore, who's an absolute master on video presenting properties, but he doesn't do it in one take. I think people have this misconception that it's so polished and brilliant that it's done in one take. But Ben will take 6 hours filming a property video, a whole day, because he fluffs his lines so many times. I fluff my lines a lot. I've got a video going out next week about touting, funnily enough, and I've had to do that 9 or 10 times as well. So these things do take practice, and you are terrible at them to start with, but the value is unbelievable.
Even the most accomplished star doesn't do everything in one take.
No.
The reason why you have multiple takes of things is to get it absolutely right. We're too afraid of that. I mean, what people don't know is take 56 of this. And we've been here since 4 o'clock in the morning. But no, I mean, the point is also you can edit stuff together as well. And people don't seem to realise that actually you get a perfect sentence, crop that bit out and put that in, and then have an interstitial picture or something if anything changes in terms of context.
Just on what both of you said there as well, and we're like talking about marketing, all those takes, we've all seen it, haven't we, on LinkedIn, the agents, you have the bloopers.
Yeah.
They're then bringing another level of marketing. So Ben, great example of, he'll have a beautifully cinematic production, he's got his cameraman, etc. And then he'll perhaps release stuff on Instagram, on stories or something, or make a TikTok out of all the fluff lines. It's an extra piece of marketing, and people love seeing the authenticity, don't they? I think there's some stuff I've posted on social media, and I'm like, I'm not sure about that. It's a bit rough and ready, and then it's the best performing thing because it's off.
Everything can be marketing, can't it? We talk about pictures on for sale boards, and people say, "Oh, but I'm worried if they draw a moustache on my face." I say, "Yeah, but that's another form of marketing." You then take a photo of it.
It's not November. Why have I got a moustache?
Yeah. All of that stuff, everything you do can lead to marketing and exposure of some description.
And we all watch movies, and we'll wait for the bloopers reel. I mean, they are often, especially if it's like something like a Jim Carrey where the bloopers are ridiculously funny and often funnier than the film. I think absolutely everything is marketing. And if you miss a trick and think, actually, I'll just bin that because it wasn't very good. Actually, if you do the professional piece and then have one outtake, which is, it doesn't always go right, people will really feel warm towards you. Authenticity is the word, absolutely authenticity.
And so do you think that independent agents, self-employed agents have more freedom to do that kind of thing than perhaps those that work within more corporate organisations?
Yes, I think, having run the marketing for what Country was then the largest, and Knight Frank, we were often quite nervous about what people would post. And there were quite a lot of restrictions. If you're a shareholder-owned company, there's a lot of reputational risk that comes. And actually, there were occasions when it went horribly wrong. But personal brand really matters today. I mean, really, really matters. Almost as important as corporate brand if you're part of a corporate, but the personal brand, people buy people. So if you can create a system that allows people to operate and understand what they do within social media and what they don't, and you let them do it, they'll fly. Just as a corporate, you're just more nervous, and there's more. I mean, there were some utter horror shows when I was in Countrywide, and you go, I cannot believe we've posted that. Could we possibly phone them, and they probably won't be working here very much longer.
Haven't these guys got a problem with the personal agent movement kind of thing? And again, this is not EXP, but all of the models that are coming up is if the corporates say to their agents, go out and be the personal brand, then the person realizes that they become more powerful than the branch or the brand within their local area. And so therefore they go and join the likes of EXP or somebody else. But then if they tell them not to, they get frustrated and their brand becomes less important because you've got personal branded agents in their area. So I think these companies have got a bit of a, how would you tackle that?
I think there's a massive challenge for the larger brands today in terms of, you're seeing a superstar, a rock star agent is a rock star agent wherever they are. You'll often say it's the brand that, and as a marketer, a passionate fan of brand, it kind of pains me, but you see a great agent move from brand to brand and they're always succeeding. It's the brand isn't doing its job. What a brand should do is it should be doing the air cover, the 35,000 feet marketing. That means when people are thinking of the 1, 2, 3 agents they think of, Purple Bricks, maybe, Strike, Connells, Fine & Country, spring to mind and think, okay, I will try the EXP agent because I love what they do locally. But there's a reason why we don't change banks. The reason why we don't change utility providers, even though they're all pretty awful. The point is, it's what we know, and there's a nervousness over people's biggest asset to go with an individual. Now, all the data tells us the individual and the local independent are the most effective because they're often the genuine experts and people within a corporate environment shackled. So what corporates can do is massively invest in their brand, and therefore they will be front of mind when called, and it's down to the individual agent to convert them. But I see so many rockstar agents moving into the self-employed model. You know, there's a brain drain of the best agents going into self-employed or setting up local independent agencies.
You then have the sort of, let's say, corporate or large independents who are kind of putting a foot in both camps, aren't they? Where they're seeing the rise of self-employed and going, we don't want to lose some of our best people to go down that route and then become a competitor. So they're kind of putting their foot into that camp and going, all right, let's offer a partner agent model. So they're clearly the big boys, and because are saying, or seeing, should I say, there is clearly a movement that way, and they're going, what do we do about it?
I think the other thing as well is self-employment is not for everybody. You know, you're looking at 3 essentially self-employed people who run their own businesses or are genuinely self-employed. It's really hard. I think we are at risk of overselling what this is without actually saying, actually, there are health warnings as well. You may not earn anything for a year. Do you have enough money in the bank? Will your partner forgive you if you lose your house as a result of it? Now, I am someone who did lose a property because of a business that failed on me. Best lesson I ever learned. I'll never make the same mistakes again. I'm doing okay now. But it is really, really hard. And I think we slightly gild the lily a little bit on what self-employment is. It is absolutely perfect for some people, but don't underestimate how much your corporate brand does for you in terms of technology, operations, marketing, HR, all those things that take out compliance, law, all those things that are taken away from you. It's why the self-employed models like EXP and the others are so good, because they kind of do a lot of that stuff. So you're part of a brand, but you're kind of an independent. So that's kind of a nice way of doing it. But it's probably good for 10% of the population, self-employment. Actually, having a monthly paycheck is very nice. Very, very nice. And I sort of miss it.
I actually, you'll find this interesting. An estate agent I work with who is employed in a very large business, and he pays me out of his own pocket. And I said to him, why are you not in one of the self-employed models? You kill it. And he said, I'm very well looked after by the company I work for.
Yeah.
Like great HR, great pay, pension, and I do not have the stress, like you said, of being in that where you went and I go home and I'm fine. And I said, would you not have that kind of what if what if I'd never tried it? He said, no, I'm all good. So again, that's a very big brand.
Yes.
Who he says looks after him very well. So he's got no reason for his head to be turned.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, it is absolutely for some people, and they should absolutely do it. There's nothing more liberating than being self-employed or running your own business. You have so much freedom. But also occasionally, I had 15 employees at one point with my business, and there's nothing like the day or two before the paycheck runs, and you suddenly go, have we got enough money? Can I earn anything? You've got to pay your people. So the only person who really suffers is yourself, unless you're ruthless. And it is a level of stress. You're never off. Holidays, what are they? You're always on your mobile phone. You're always checking stuff. I love it. And it's my 7th rodeo for winning businesses. I've one catastrophic failure and the rest have been okay. But people should go in it with eyes wide open. You'll love it, or it might not be for you.
And in terms of agents who are starting off either in one of the self-employed models, or whether it's in their own independent business, one of the biggest challenges is building that brand awareness locally and getting those first few instructions. What recommendations would you give as a panel to somebody who's starting out?
I think we've covered it already, but going back to Adam's point of asking friends, family, are you thinking of moving, or who do you know? And actually plastering it all over social media, because genuinely people want to see you succeed. I really do. Like, I was blown away when I started my business. I just put a very simple post out on social media and couldn't believe how many people were backing me and behind me for it. So yeah, I think a lot of estate agents,
they want you to succeed until you've succeeded.
Yeah, and then yeah. I was thinking that, but I didn't want to say it. But yeah, so I think that some agents have done it very well, and a lot of self-employed agents I speak to, and I go, where did your first listing come from? And 9 times out of 10, it is friend, family, like you said earlier. And it's making sure you leverage that and literally your contact list on your phone.
Yeah.
Like literally going through them and not being afraid and going, well, that's John, who I've not spoken to in 5 years, but just ring up. Hey, John, just to let you know, recently started my own estate agency. Who's one person in your world who's thinking of moving that I could help?
But also educate them on what you need. My stepdad used to send me buyers back in 2006. Here's someone who wants to buy, here's someone who wants to buy. And it was every week. And I'd say, all right, Phil, thanks very much, but I need sellers. You know, I really appreciate it. But that was a lesson I learned, that if you tell people you're just opening an estate agency, the public think you need buyers. Actually, you don't, you need properties. So educate them on what you actually need. I think it's important.
And I think, I agree with everything Simon and Adam have said. And I think, that we are so bad at it in Britain. We actually have a contact book in our hand. I think the average person has 42 connections, actually way more than that, actually, people I know. Just messaging. Most people don't like estate agents. Reality of life. Most people don't go, I love estate agents. That's not the reaction you're getting from the market. But they probably like you. And that you're an estate agent that they like, you trust you, as Bob Berg would say in Endless Referrals. If they know, like, and trust you, they're very likely to either be interested in using you or know someone who is. But to build on what everyone said then, I think Adam used the word hyperlocal. I say this when I'm training estate agents from a marketing perspective, not to be estate agents, but from a marketing perspective, is however targeted you think you're being, be even more targeted. The real skill is to get 2 or 3 boards in sight of one another, and it will mushroom out of there. So you absolutely want to know a local area, because almost everyone else is spreading themselves too thin. I had one self-employed agent said, I'm doing the whole of Surrey. And I went, what, all 500,000 of them? Your chance of having mind share across 500,000 when there'll be 40, 50 other estate agents and lots of self-employed, all going for that. Go for the hamlet, go for the community, go for the streets. I live in Hemel Hempstead, not the nice example of 1960s planning and development with a magic roundabout, but I live in Boxmoor. And it's very specific that if you live in Boxmoor, you live in Boxmoor, not Hemel Hempstead. Mm-hmm. So targeting Boxmoor and the community of Boxmoor and being the Boxmoor agent, no one else will really be doing that apart from maybe one other local independent.
One of the biggest mistakes we see. Covering too big an area.
Absolutely.
Yeah, cover a small area, really, really important.
Really, ideally, you can walk around it. That's the ideal lifestyle. You can walk out. Once you've dominated an area, you can spread and keep moving out and maybe get other agents recommended and things like that to work with you and collaborate. But it's so biggest mistake. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. People just go, I'm for the whole of London. And you're like, it's quite a competitive market.
On what you'd said there as well, in terms of like obviously, if you can get boards next to each other and it's sold, everyone on that street who is contemplating moving are going, that's an obvious choice to pick up the phone to them. And going hyper local, there's a variety of different ways of doing it for free on the internet to actually go and look at the most transacted streets. So going back to your point earlier of 84% of properties coming to market have not been on with someone else. I've got that right yet? So new instructions. Well, if you look at 10 streets in Newport Pagnell, where I'm from, and go, these 10 streets are where transactions happen most frequently. Well, let's perhaps ignore the ones which have just transacted. I'm going to keep going here because it's going to be the next lot of people. So it could be your first time movers, second steppers, etc. So go after where a lot of transactions are happening, and then your boards will go up. So main roads, for example, boards go up and people will start seeing your branding. Then you can do recently sold campaigns and then get the next ones who are thinking of selling. So going back to the point of how do you contact those off-market properties? I think a lot of agents say, well, where do I start? I don't know, let's chuck 1,000 leaflets out, 10,000 leaflets and just say, do you want a free valuation if you're thinking of selling? Well, 97, 98% of properties are not on the market. So no, I'm not thinking of selling, I don't want a valuation. But if you can put out there, I'm doing business in your area, would you like to know how it's impacted the value of your home? Yeah. They're going to go, I would like to know how it's impacted the value of my home. And then you're planting that seed. You said earlier, get them if you can get them into an email campaign, because you'd love to email campaign them for a year, rather than them ringing you up in a year's time as one of 3 agents. They go with the cheapest fee and highest price. Yeah. I want to be the only agent through a door, and I'll get that if I've marketed them for a year before that. That
was a tactic we used back in 2006, was targeting main roads. So we leaflet dropped main roads. There's 4 main roads in and out of Hitchin: Stevenage Road, Cambridge Road, Bedford Road, Offley Road. And we just bombarded those roads. We didn't bother with any of the rest of Hitchin. All of a sudden, within about 6 or 7 months, we had 3 boards on Stevenage Road, one after the other. The busiest road in Hitchin, going in and out, people just seeing these hatch boards, hatched. thinking, and all my friends were saying, wow, you must be busy. And I was thinking, I've only got 6 boards up in the Old Hitchin, but 3 of them are on Stevenage Road. So perception is reality sometimes, and you have to tap into that.
There's a reason why billboards are where they are, because there's lots of eyeballs on them. When I was running the marketing at Countrywide, we had Google's, I think they're called the Alpha team came. We were the largest spender on Google in the UK in estate agency at Countrywide. And we had their team come over. I'm not going to break any commercial secrets, because when I tell you the answer, everyone will go like, yeah, we already know that. But they came in and said, right, we've crunched all the data for real estate. We've actually worked out, and what we've worked out is the critical thing that you need to do to grow your brand. I'm like going, it's Google. The gods of Google are going to speak. We're going to learn mighty wisdom. Basically spend more money on Google inevitably. But let's find out what they say. Get more boards up. That was their biggest conclusion from all the work they did, is you just need to get more boards up within sight of one another. And I once bought a billboard poster site outside an airport because I knew a key client was coming in through there. And they were like, your brand must be enormous. I saw you at Heathrow. And you go, yeah, one board. But it had the impact.
On what you're saying now, and going back, like these old school tactics, which are still going to work very well. And someone who came to mind immediately when you said that was Alex Pelosi Buchanan. And there's others who have done this as well, where when they've launched their estate agency, they've put where they've launched onto a board. So they've asked friends, family, people, and say, can you put a board in your front garden? And it says, hello, Newport Pagnell.
Yes.
And people are ringing up and, oh, I've seen the board. Oh, it's not actually for sale, but are you looking at moving home?
Technically, that's not allowed. Just to caveat that.
Oops.
Yeah, the local council will call you and tell you to take the boards down. But yeah, I did it back in 2006 as well. So
that's why you know.
Yeah,
You can put sponsorship boards up, like for village fates or school fates, can't you?
You can, yeah, I think so. Yeah, you need to check with your local planning.
Well, conservation now is getting in the way, but all you need to do is check what you're allowed to do. But it works. It does work, and okay, I'm not recommending it because if it's against the law, it's very naughty. We shouldn't do it. But get them up for a week. If they get taken down, you may get a slap wrist. It's okay. Didn't say that.
Well, look, you're going into business. You're going into battle. You're not going to a tea party.
Exactly.
You've got to break a few eggs to make an omelette. All those other classic sayings that you've got. But that's my attitude on business: is you're going into battle. It's survival of the fittest, and you have to do sometimes. Ask for forgiveness rather than permission.
Yeah. And poster sites, people overestimate how expensive they are. Now, if you've arrived in an area, you can probably find a bill poster site on a main road, and you'll be surprised about how little it costs. But it will absolutely declare that you're in the area, and people react to it because people are travelling around, and they'll see it, and it makes you very present if you don't have a physical office.
So just to wrap up, I think it'd be really great to just get one recommendation from each of you for what you think agents should be including in their strategy for next year. Simon, do you want to go first?
So I'm going to actually say, if there's one strategy, we are clearly seeing there's property that's sitting on the market for a lot longer. So again, using the overused phrase of low-hanging fruit, but the ones that are currently for sale, not just bombarding anyone and everyone, but actually going back to Husband's point of offering genuine, helpful advice without expecting anything in return. So, for example, if you go onto Rightmove, Zoopla on the market, whatever, and you look at it and you go, that's interesting, that's a £2 million property, it's got no floor plan, it's got no video tour. Is that worth a door knock? Or if you're not comfortable doing a door knock, a specific letter to the owner saying, no, she's marketing and there's not a video tour, that's something I would recommend. And then hopefully they're going to ring you up and go, my agent has not recommended that, can I come with you? So those ones which are poorly marketed, not priced correctly, go after them, because I say this a lot to agents I work with, but another weird analogy from me, but my dishwasher is broken, okay? Now, the shops don't know my dishwasher is broken, whereas in an estate agency, there's a board outside someone's house saying for sale, and it gets put on Rightmove. So you know they're looking at moving, so you know who your potential next customer is. So yeah, my point would be a lot of other agents are going to be doing it, using a lot of automated software to do it. But if you can go out and target the right ones with the right message, then you're likely to get the phone ringing. And I know that the stat is low in terms of sellers changing estate agents. But again, in my last year in agency, about 40% of what I sold failed to sell with the first agent. And I think that's because I didn't just blanket drop with a generic approach. Do you want a free valuation? It was, here's how I think I can help you. And if your agent doesn't do that, talk to me. So yeah, that would be my advice on that. Nothing earth-shatteringly new there, but hopefully some sound advice.
Great, thanks, Simon. Adam?
There isn't really anything earth-shatteringly new in marketing for estate agencies. So there's 7 or 8 key tactics. I won't go through all of them, but choose 2 or 3 of them is my opinion. Ideally, would do all of them, but if you're going to only choose 2 or 3 because you've got limited budget, my strategy would just be consistent. Whatever you choose, you have to be consistent. If it's video, be consistent. If it's letters, be consistent. If it's targeting main roads with leaflets, be consistent. Consistency is the key. It's such a boring word to use, but it is consistency. That's all that matters, really. Brilliant.
And Simon, you wrap us up?
I sort of have 2, but they are very closely related. And it's a bit more, I don't know, possibly a bit more weird in terms of a piece of advice a bit. Is I would always say to people when I'm training them in marketing is everything you know is wrong. Literally everything you know. We are basically pattern-seeking herd animals, and we try and find stories when there aren't any. And your best, okay, I'm not having having empty mind or a closed mind. I'm having an open mind. Open yourself to what the data, start with data and what the research tells you. So my kind of practical advice is if you're not, every single customer that you have, whether they succeed or not, you should be sending them a survey to say, would you recommend us? Asking a very important, why do you say that? There's a thing called NPS. People can Google it, and it's a 0 to 10 scale. All the methodology is there. If they say yes, they'd recommend you, do respond to them and go on then, recommend me. Can I use yours in a post? So I'd say start with the assumption that everything you assume is wrong, everything you know is wrong. Well, 188 cognitive biases, but do an NPS. It is the best way to get feedback of what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong, and you can fix it.
Great. Well, thank you ever so much for your contributions. Hopefully the agents watching this will have got something useful out of our conversation, but it's been very enjoyable having it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.